out of something else altogether. But do you know how it? I'm sorry, I'm Shabir. You are?
Shabir, Richard.
Richard, nice meeting you, sir. Yeah, you know how it is. A lot of people say so many things out of total ignorance, and they are so convinced about it. Yeah. So when you were pulling them up on each and every issue, that's what I was laughing at. I was thinking, look at the cheek of these guys. Every time he's asking a reasonable question, they don't know how to actually respond. They really didn't know.
I mean, it's arrogance, isn't it, to say that
It is.
you know everything and that you can definitively say there's no
Yes.
God. You're placing yourself very
Absolutely.
elevating yourself.
And then when you ask a simple question, as you were rightly responding to them, they don't really know anything. Yeah, it's a pretense, it's a false pretense that they know everything. So as far as I'm concerned, when I was listening to you, I thought, right, fine, let's see what they have to say. They didn't have much to
offer. It was hard going because he just wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. He kept pushing. I said, why are you so? If you don't believe there's a God, fine. Well, why are you arguing about it?
It's true. It doesn't make sense. But you know what? It is like you pointed out. There is that inherent thing in every human being, and one cannot deny it. You can try and shut your eyes, as you pointed out, but sooner or later that reality will come. It is better before you die, rather than after. Yeah, so it's one of those. So
obviously you hold the standard position on Christianity that you're kind of
in terms of
Christianity, because I'm a Christian.
I gathered that. I gathered that. Yeah. No. My view has always been the approach must be based on the evidence. Whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, whatever you are, at the end of the day, you have your basis in something which you have extracted from either the Bible, the Quran, or whichever else. So my standard position has always been that, look, if there is a creator, my logic tells me, like the person was asking, we came from God. Where did God come from? Was one of the standard questions. My view is simple. If we use the word creator, and you ask a question like, if we were created by God, who created the creator? By definition, it's a contradiction, and it doesn't work. So there can only be one. And my view is that if there is one creator, then logic is going to dictate that anything and everything that people brought allegedly from a creator would all be from one source. So, as far as I'm concerned, all the prophets that were sent, by definition, would be brothers. And if they were all brothers, they surely could not have brought conflicting messages. And so, if we find two areas where there seems to be an apparent conflict, then it is something to discuss and establish which one holds veracity. That's my standard view on Christianity also. So
I understand in most of the Muslims' arguments against Christianity. But my problem is I mean, Jesus is. The Quran has very little about Jesus in it. You don't have the information to really make an assessment of Jesus. I don't believe.
Well, what kind of assessment would we want to make? If for example, on the basis of the information provided, if you have a prophet prior to Jesus, a prophet prior to Moses, if we look at Abraham, for example, we wouldn't have as much information about him as we have for Jesus according to the Bible. So the question would be, okay, if there is sufficient information or there is a lack of information, does that detract from what the truth is of whatever information is available?
No, it doesn't.
No, it wouldn't.
But if there's more information somewhere, you have to go by the more information. And if you've got more information that's more accurate and more reliable, that's what you have to use. You have to use the most reliable information. Now, the Quran came about in the 6th century, and it came about in Arabia.
Yeah.
And Jesus, as we know, had gone back to heaven.
Right.
So there was nobody in the 7th century that knew Jesus or had met him. And he didn't even live in that place.
Yeah.
So how could you make a valid argument about that being true information about God when we have accounts from the first century written by people who either knew him or knew people who knew him in the land where he lived.
Yeah.
You see, so you're so far removed from the source. How can you say that's a reliable account?
I would suggest that although on face value what you said sounds reasonable, however, if I were to approach it from the point of view of transcendence, geographical location wouldn't matter, would it?
Well, that's a cop-out. What you're saying
No, it can't be.
No, it is a cop-out because that's not how it works.
No, can I explain?
It doesn't work like that. We have to have... You believe Muhammad existed, right?
No, my view is, as I said, if we look at the evidence, Richard, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard. You see, what I meant about transcendence, I'll just explain. Yeah?
I know what transcendence means. You're saying it's because God stepped in. It's because
if the Creator is revealing it...
But anybody can say that.
Exactly, so you'd have to test the evidence.
So anybody could say that, but when you actually have historical evidence about something...
Okay.
You know, it says, Moses said that, you know, at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let everything be established.
Yeah.
He said you had to have human witnesses.
Okay.
Because I could come along and say, look, God just revealed to me that Jesus was an alien.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So how's that valid? How's that a valid criteria?
I would suggest to you that if we look, as I said, if we look at the evidence, for example, you know, you quoted what Moses said, but you will also find that there are statements attributed to people of God in the Bible where it actually says, for example, in Psalms, prove all things, hold on to that which is good. Now, when it says prove all things, if you are not going to consider evidence critically and duly, how are you going to prove things?
You've got to have the evidence in the first place. You don't
exactly.
Have it, you don't have it.
No. If you have the evidence,
you don't have any evidence.
No. Now you are going from a preconceived idea.
I'll show you what evidence you have. Oh, no.
Thank you. There you are. Take this away, please. There. Yeah, don't do that.
To the toilet anyway.
He's taken it away.
No, but I need to go to the toilet.
Okay, not a problem.
But what I'm saying to you is, let me just show you something.
Yeah, sure.
I might have a chat with you later. I don't mind.
No problem at all. Yeah, sure.
That's not a problem.
Sure.
I just don't want to be pinned down at the moment.
No. That's fair. I do not want you to think all Muslims want to restrict freedom.
No. Well, this man was doing a good job of chasing me around the park.
I know. He's been told in no uncertain terms not to do that.
And I have debated him before.
Yeah.
And I know. Right, these are all the verses from the Quran.
Yeah.
These are all the verses of the Quran that mention the previous scriptures.
Okay, yeah.
You've got about 131 that mention the previous scriptures.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
These are the words of Jesus.
Yeah.
Attributed to Jesus in the
Yes.
Quran. So you've got that. This is about Jesus.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So that's the sum total.
Okay.
Now it doesn't look like many words, but I counted all the words. It's about 440.
Okay.
440 words.
Right. Okay.
attributed to Jesus.
But what about the content of the words?
Well, okay, we'll get onto that later. But don't forget, nobody knew Jesus in the 7th century. He didn't live in the 7th century. He didn't live in Arabia. Now, in the Bible, we have over 30,000 to 40,000. If you account the places where Jesus is quoted, not just the time he spoke the first time he's quoted, it's nearer 40,000.
Okay.
So we have, in fact, every gospel, you know the 4 gospels,
Yes.
50% of each gospel is the words of Jesus.
Okay.
So we have a massive amount more information than the Quran. The Quran has minimal, and yet you take that as an authority.
Yeah, but I can't see how you are dismissing it. For example, if I were to say to you, okay, a particular statute has got 1 paragraph, and its interpretation goes into 50,000 words, does that make the statute wrong? It doesn't, does it?
No.
It doesn't. Okay. So if I were to say, for example, you refer to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, yeah? There are a certain group of scholars. There are other groups of scholars who will tell you, well, this may have been attributed at one time to Jesus, but now we don't think it was. However, what I would suggest, Richard, is that look, the Quran, as an example, talks about him not being crucified nor killed. Central theme in the Quran. Okay? Yeah. Now, we are told in the book of Corinthians, the statement reads, if Christ be not risen from the dead, then our preaching is in vain and our faith is in vain. Now, my question is this, yeah? He was an alleged disciple of Jesus. If I were to say to you, because I'm saying let's look at the evidence.
Why are you saying he was alleged?
Because the evidence needs to establish that. So, if I were to say to you, let's go according to how you believe it, yeah? Because a lot of people say, why are you quoting it if you don't accept it? I said, no, I'm not looking at it from that angle. I'm looking at it from the angle of evidence purely. So if the evidence is suggesting to you, and I would ask you to consider this, Richard, if it says, if Christ be not risen from the dead, then our preaching is in vain and our faith is in vain. The question therefore arises this, why was that issue raised by Paul?
Why was it raised?
Why was it raised? If it was so 100% certain that that is what had happened to him, why was this issue raised?
I mean, he was just affirming that Jesus really did rise from the dead.
Oh, well, it starts with an if. That's imperative. If Christ was not risen.
What's the context of the gospel?
Well, but there you are. Now here is the important thing. You see, if you look at what he is saying, he's talking about where a lot of people were saying different things. Now you know, and I know, I'm sure you are aware, that there are what are known as apocryphal writings, in which the apocryphal writings themselves claim that he was not crucified nor was he killed. So the question therefore arises this, wait a minute, is there something that needs to be addressed on an evidential basis as to whether this actually did occur or not? Now, I would then turn it around and suggest this to you. Okay, 600 years later or 700 years later, in a location which was far removed from where allegedly things happened, yes, my view is, wait a minute, the Creator works from our logical perspective above time and space. And so when we say 700...
You've taken ages to get to the very point I made earlier, because you're just saying God told you.
Who told Jesus?
That's not valid.
Who told Jesus?
That's not valid.
Can I ask you, who told Jesus about Abraham? Who told Jesus about Abraham?
But we have, Jesus spoke from authority, but we have people who witnessed this live.
Sorry, Richard, when you say he spoke from authority, what do you mean?
But there are people who witnessed the miracles he did.
No, Richard, I'm sorry, I'm pushing you here. When you say he said it on authority, Jesus said it on authority, whose authority?
God's.
Were the actions of Abraham far removed from Jesus?
Yeah.
So who told him about Abraham? And why is it valid?
I understand the point you're making, but with Muhammad it's a totally different thing.
Why?
Because Muhammad was the one who claimed that the angel spoke to him.
That's a different issue. The issue first, let's establish is
anyone
it
ever
possible?
hear Jesus speak to God?
Did anybody, or was
Did anyone ever hear God speak to Jesus?
Was there anybody present when he went 40 days away?
Did anybody ever hear... Well, you need to reread your Bible.
No, 1 second, Richard.
Check out your Bible.
Well, I have, and I think you
there
need...
are several accounts where there are people
not at
God
all.
speaking.
Give me one example now.
Mount of Transfiguration, the baptism.
No, wait a minute.
I need to go to the link.
Okay, Richard. Look after yourself, okay.